Chapter 8, Yamashita's Mystery, Thailand-Myanmar border 6 months earlier. In the midst of the jungle, Maria could not stop herself from running towards the locals, who were shouting for a farang, or foreigner, to come over to see what they had dug up. She was in a postgraduate field school for her master's in archaeology at the University of California, Los Angeles. Despite previously focusing her studies on Latin American cultures, as she did in undergraduate school, she decided to venture out into Far East Asian studies. She was following in the tutelage of Dr. Villa, a kind and curious man. He had guided her through much of the struggles in getting used to a different land filled with various complicated cultures with histories dating back to the dawn of humanity. Their mission was to excavate the remains of Hindu temples in Myanmar, formerly Burma, even though Buddhism was the predominant religion in the region. The team of archaeologists aimed to uncover evidence of Hindu temples and artifacts to better understand the historical influence of Hindu culture in Myanmar. However, many of these temples had fallen into disrepair or were looted during the country's past political changes. As a result, the team's task was to dig up these sites and search for fragments that could provide more insight. Yet, the discovery made by the workers turned out to be quite unexpected. Maria looked in the shallow hole that had been dug. There was the side of a skull that wasn't completely dug up and torn up olive-colored herringbone twill cotton, the kind that made up the uniforms of American soldiers in World War II. "Clear off the area and get Dr. Villa," Maria commanded. The team of archaeologists, accompanied by Dr. Villa, had carefully removed the dirt around the skull. It was revealed that the skull was sitting on top of the body of a skeleton draped in American combat fatigues from World War II. "Possible decapitation?" Maria asked. "Good call, Miss Gutierrez. The fabric seems to have dated around World War II, back when the Japanese had taken over this land. Curious to see what an American is doing out here all alone," Dr. Villa answered. Doctor, I don't think he was alone," another archaeologist shouted while removing the dirt and mud. Maria walked back to the hole and discovered more bones. As Maria and the team sifted away the dirt, they only found more bodily remains and clothing. Some clothing was indigenous to Myanmar, and a few were American combat fatigues. By the end of the digging, it was revealed to be a shallow mass grave. 20 skeletons lay in rows of 10 over each other. Maria felt goosebumps at the sheer horror of the massacre. Yet, as an archaeologist with experience in the field, she was used to the sight of dead bodies at various stages of decomposition. What provoked Maria's curiosity was a journal with a singed cover sitting atop the corpse of the decapitated dead American. She donned latex gloves from her fanny pack and grabbed a large plastic Ziploc bag. With extreme caution, she put the journal into the Ziploc bag while Dr. Villa assisted with a container to put the bag into for safekeeping. "Maria, bring this to the examination room. I want you to research the journal, if there is anything to research," Dr. Villa ordered. Maria beamed in excitement at the find, and the fact that she was asked to lead the examination of the discovery. She carefully walked back to the array of large tents a quarter-mile to the east of where they had dug up the site. Inside a dark, red-lit tent, Maria went to work. She carefully took the book out under the red light so no sunlight could harm the pages. The extent of the damage wasn't that severe. It was as if some Imperial Japanese soldier had carelessly tried to burn the book and throw it in the grave, but hadn't checked to see if the knowledge hidden within the book had been destroyed. It was a careless mistake that turned out to be a miracle for Maria. After taking pictures of the front and back of the book, she opened its contents slowly to avoid breaking the spine. Inside were notes and details of an OSS special operation in Burma, dating from March to April of 1942. Due to its age, decomposition, and burn marks, Maria couldn't read the specifics. At the end of the journal, a piece of paper was folded inside. Using tweezers, she continued to carefully unfold the paper. Maria could see the Japanese writing that indicated it was an official document of the Imperial Japanese military. Underneath, was the old saying, Hoko ichiu, meaning from all corners one, the official motto of the Imperial Japanese regime at the time. On the front was a manifest with items that looked to be shipped out. Maria couldn't understand the kanji language, but she took the pictures. She wondered why and how an American was able to get a Japanese document. Maybe it belonged to someone important, she asked herself. Inside the tent was a UV light. She picked it up and waved it over the manifest. Distinct fingerprints were still found on the paper. She took the pictures, making sure that the fingerprints were centered on the picture for further research back at UCLA. What she also noticed was kanji characters were superimposed over the other characters that were highlighted under the UV light. She took a picture of that as well. After properly documenting the find, she went back to work. However, her curiosity had the best of her. She couldn't conduct any further research, though, as there wasn't an internet connection and the technology to do so was back at the university. She would just have to wait. She carefully put back the contents of the book and stowed it away for further research. Then she headed back into the jungle, excited to see what else could be found. 2 weeks later, Kotzen Archaeological Institute, UCLA. Maria had not forgotten the manifest. The day after her flight from Thailand, she personally took in all of the artifacts from the excavation and sent them to the lab. The next day, she would get ready to uncover the mystery of the manifest. While the remnants and trinkets of Hindu culture were the main focus of the research team, Maria had the time to research the World War II manifest. She logged onto a computer and uploaded the pictures of the fingerprints into an international historical database, IHD. The developers of the IHD, Identity and Human Data System, had conducted a thorough documentation of fingerprints from various sources, including local, national, and international databases. They were also in the process of documenting DNA samples, beginning with the fingerprints of soldiers from World War I, which had been captured in ink during their enlistments. As their efforts expanded, they managed to build a substantial database of names that dated back to the early 1850s. However, it was important to note that this database, while large, was not yet complete. Maria would still need some element of luck or chance to find the specific information she was looking for. The first fingerprint recognized was First Lieutenant Frank Daniels, an operative in the Office of Strategic Services as a cartographer. He was survived by his wife, who remarried, and his son. The second was Lieutenant Colonel Hank Osborne, one of the team leaders of the OSS, was supposedly in charge of a team operating in Burma. What surprised Maria, though, was that he was a teacher at Stanford during the 1930s. The last identifiable fingerprint made Maria's heart skip a beat. It was General Yamashita, the Tiger of Malaya. It was well known to her that he was one of the fiercest generals in the Imperial Japanese Army, as well as being famous for leading the operation of stockpiling treasures found in the conquered lands to financially support the ongoing campaigns of the Imperial Japanese. If this is General Yamashita's manifest, then maybe this is something to do with the treasures, she thought, putting the two and two together. Maria continued to upload the pictures of the journal onto her computer. Using a translation site, Maria understood that the printed kanji characters were useless. The inscriptions of the manifest only had a list of reasons why the Western powers were inferior. Maria then uploaded the picture of the manifest under UV light. The kanji symbols that were uncovered by the light turned out to be useless numbers. She slumped in her computer chair, frustrated. Part of her thought it was just scribbled by a bored Japanese imperial soldier. But this must have been in the hands of General Yamashita, she thought. He was a strict military leader who taught his troops discipline. In addition, if they were just scribbles, then it wouldn't make sense to hide them behind invisible ink. Whatever they wrote on this piece of paper was in the hands of 2 Americans who got killed because of it. There was something more going on. Maria thought, perhaps, that there was a specific reason for the nonsensical kanji numbers. If it was a big secret, it must be codified by the Imperial Japanese military. She looked online to find a list of Japanese codes used during World War II. a list popped up. The Japanese used 12 different codes and ciphers that American intelligence services identified during World War II. Which one should I start with? She asked herself. She combed the list for the most popular. It was titled JN-25. JN was the most popular and most secure cipher in the Japanese Navy. It took a message and scrambled it with 30,000 code groups and pieced together 30,000 random additives. However, Maria was not a code breaker. It took Allied intelligence services years to figure the code out during the war. However, she was in one of the largest centers of archaeology on the West Coast. The building she was in had to have the code book. Maria carefully sifted through the extensive rows of shelves, her fingers running along countless books and documents in search of the list of World War II primary sources. After what felt like an eternity, luck was on her side as she stumbled upon an aged, weathered edition of a JN-25 codebook. Returning to her desk with the precious find in hand, Maria's excitement grew. The codebook described the JN-25 as a series of 5 consecutive numbers that translate into a word. The other problem was that there was already a secondary additive layer to the original numbers, adding an extra layer of complexity to the puzzle. With unwavering determination and fueled by her curiosity, Maria immersed herself in the codebook. Minutes turned into hours as she meticulously unraveled the secrets encoded within the manifest, each deciphered word unveiling a piece of history hidden in the pages of time. Trishula recovered. Send to Port Mindanao. Golden Bunker. 0819. She stood back and looked at her accomplishment, but had a hard time understanding the message. Maria sat there, confused. What the hell is a trishula? She thought to herself. Even as a student of East Asian archaeology, she had to do a quick search on the internet. One of the first sites that popped up was an information website on Hinduism. Once she clicked on the site, Maria's eyes widened. In the picture that accompanied the article was a statue of a man with snakes around his neck. One hand was an open palm facing outward, while the other held what looked to be a trident, akin to the one that the Greek god Poseidon used. However, the outer spears were curved around, not straight. From her reading, Trishula is the signature weapon of Lord Shiva. In the Vishnu Puran sect of Hinduism, Trishula was given to Lord Shiva by Vishwakarma, the architect of the Hindu gods, and composed of his son's solar power, which gave Trishula the immense capability of destruction. Other divine Hindu weapons, also known as astras, were crafted to do extraordinary things, but the Trishula of Lord Shiva remained the most powerful. The discovery, if genuine, would be a groundbreaking achievement in the field of archaeology and catapult Maria to international fame as an archaeologist. However, she was cautious and needed to verify its authenticity. Trishula could refer to any old trident, and if the astra was indeed real, General Yamashita might have wanted to use it against the Allied forces during the war. Finding a weapon like the Trishula astra would have profound implications, suggesting that the supernatural had real, tangible manifestations and would give solid proof that the gods exist. The mystery filled her with both excitement and fear, as it had been a while since she had encountered one of this magnitude. However, the stakes were much higher this time, as the existence of gods was potentially at stake, which could revolutionize the world's entire perception. Despite the risks, she felt an innate, irresistible drive to seek and unveil the truth. If anyone could uncover the secrets of Trishula, it would be her. She looked at the translated message again. Port Mindanao was clear enough. It meant that the shipment would move to the eastern Philippine island. What it meant when it said Golden Bunker baffled her, though. Maria clicked on a link on her computer to see what defenses the Imperial Japanese had on the island. To her luck, she found a picture that dictated where the U.S. Army moved throughout the island and where they struck. Analyzing the map for a few minutes, Maria was able to see that the U.S. forces completely missed Mount Malandang. If the Allies didn't sweep through the mountain, could Trishula still be hidden there? That's when her excitement turned into disappointment. Maria's problem was traveling to the Philippines. Being a graduate student of archaeology meant that having money was a rare occurrence. Dissatisfied, she pulled up her emails from her computer. The Kotzen Institute of Archaeology at UCLA would commonly take part in large private expeditions throughout the world. All she needed was an excuse to get close enough to where she needed to go. As if her prayers were answered, she found an excavation in Mindanao under Westpac Archaeology Services. Apparently, they too were on the hunt for Yamashita's gold. She needed to get on that trip and get to Trishula before anyone else. Such a weapon in the hands of a private company would be disastrous, Maria thought to herself. She looked at the requirements to join. Must have 10+ years of experience. Maria Gutierrez was still a graduate student. Getting onto a dig of this magnitude took only the most acclaimed archaeologists. Maria's spirit sank as she realized that, as a graduate student, she lacked the extensive experience needed for the expedition. However, she continued scrolling through the list of biographies of those attending the dig on the website. Her disappointment turned to intrigue when she stumbled upon a particular picture. It was a professional portrait of a man with thick rectangular glasses, salt and pepper hair neatly combed in a precise part, a budding double chin, and an unmistakably egotistical, self-satisfied smile. Dr. Daniel Taylor, dig leader. Maria despised that man. Her friend had a class with him before. While he displayed an unassuming visage, her friend divulged to Maria that he would fail female students who were very well known to be popular and attractive. Once they asked for an office appointment for counseling with him, Dr. Taylor would take no issue in harassing and sexually assaulting the women. No one said anything, though. He had power, and according to Dr. Taylor, when you have the power, you can make the ugly things go away. Maria's frustration grew as she recognized that the man in the portrait didn't deserve to be in the spotlight as the leading archaeologist. However, he held the position of authority on the dig, deciding who would join him. Maria pondered whether she could approach him to be part of the expedition, and she began to contemplate a well-thought-out plan to make it happen. Maria called the secretary of Dr. Taylor. She said that it was a desperate need to talk to the acclaimed archaeology professor. The female secretary on the phone asked the phrase, "Are you sure?" 3 times during the conversation with Maria. She cringed at the thought of being alone in the same room as him, but she persisted with the plan. The next morning, Maria Gutierrez showed up promptly on time. She wore a classy white blazer and a knee-length skirt. Her hair was tied up into a bun, and she donned a new pair of thick rectangular glasses to give off a professional yet alluring look. When Maria walked into the central lobby, she met the secretary with a smile. "Hello, ma'am. Here to see Dr. Taylor?" Maria feigned excitement. The secretary bought it, as her face advertised both confusion and worry. It was as if the secretary believed that Maria didn't know who she was going to meet. "He's running a little bit late, miss," the secretary replied, "but I can have you wait in his office." Maria feigned a ditzy delightment to go into the office. Once inside, it was filled to the brim with trinkets, trophies, and artifacts from long-ago times and faraway places. This time, Maria didn't hide her amazement. There were stone statues of the Okinawan Shisa guardians dating back to the 18th century, an aged Greek capillity helmet, and even an ancient Egyptian organ jar with the head of Anubis. Maria could spend all day rummaging through what Dr. Taylor had acquired. That's when she had to get her mind back to the task at hand. She waited no more than a few minutes to see the surprisingly short man walk through the door. Dr. Taylor gazed up and down at Maria with an obvious look. Maria tried not to quiver as she went to shake his hand. "Dr. Taylor, so nice to meet you," Maria smiled. "Please, the pleasure is all mine." Dr. Taylor smiled and went to kiss her hand. Maria just accepted it, despite an encroaching feeling of discomfort. She needed to go on this dig. "So, what do I owe the pleasure, Miss?" he continued. "Gutierrez, Maria Gutierrez," Maria continued with a polite smile. "I was wondering about the dig in the Philippines that was coming up." "Ah, yes, this is a huge find," Dr. Taylor interrupted Maria. Some Filipino farmer, as in someone that comes from the islands in the Philippines. They are just south of Japan," he continued. Maria continued to feign amusement as Dr. Taylor continued to explain things she already knew in a condescending manner. "He claims his grandfather knew where a camp that housed General Yamashita is. He was a big general for the Imperial Japanese Army during World War II. I thought it was a pile of crap, but apparently they ran into some Type 99 rifles while plowing the dirt. Those are weapons used by the Japanese. So Westpac, an acclaimed private archaeology company, has decided to elect me as the leader of the dig. Unfortunately, the board of directors for Westpac doesn't want any problems, so they want me to talk to this security company that we have to have alongside us." Maria was uneasy about the decision to employ mercenaries for security during the expedition. She didn't want to think of what would happen if any of them got their hands on the gold or Trishula. "It's boon tactical?" Dr. Taylor used air quotes. "The last thing we need are guns on a peaceful island like Mindanao. It's an island in the Philippines with a large Muslim population." He continued to talk. "Sir?" Maria interrupted. "Call me Dan," Dr. Taylor replied. "Dr. Taylor," she denied him, "I would like to be a part of your expedition." Dr. Taylor laughed like it was the dumbest thing he ever heard. Maria expected that. Miss Maria, how old are you?" Dr. Taylor inquired. 24, but I'm obtaining my master's," she tried to answer. "This dig is one of the most prestigious in the world. Hell, we might even stumble onto some lost relics from a myriad of different cultures that were ransacked by the Imperial Japanese. If we have the ability to dig for it, then we must send the most proficient field archaeologists. You barely have your master's," he continued to explain. Maria started to feel as if Dr. Taylor was being less obtuse and more sensible than she was. This was a big deal for the world of archaeology, and maybe she was overstepping her boundaries and her time would come soon. Unless, of course, Dr. Taylor thought with a sly smile, eyeing Maria up and down, you could be my personal assistant. He got up from his desk and walked around to the back of Maria's chair. What would I do? Maria said while trying not to feel uncomfortable with Dr. Taylor behind her. He started to play with her hair and massage her shoulders. Oh, not much. You just do the paperwork and be at my side for 24 hours a day. The last part made Maria fight back the urge to throw up. Dr. Taylor, wouldn't your wife be uncomfortable with a woman like me accompanying you so intimately? Maria tried to make that sound realistic. Oh, she's usually too busy with the kids and house to worry about my little adventures, Dr. Taylor casually answered. He then went back to the front of the desk and leaned back on it, facing Maria. Maria tapped the side of her glasses as she crossed her legs. There's just one thing. I want to know that you're committed to the excavation, Dr. Taylor said, curling the corners of his lips. Oh, Dr. Taylor, I'd do anything to go on this dig. Maria was starting to get impressed by her own acting skills. Dr. Taylor carefully but firmly started to grasp Maria's hand and move it toward his crotch. Maria took note, eyeing the whole situation. Dr. Taylor, what are you doing? She asked gently. I want you to work for it, he replied gently, extending his smile. It was at that cue that Maria jumped from her chair, kneed Dr. Taylor in the genitals, then grabbed him by the back of the neck and slammed him down onto the table. What are you doing? Dr. Taylor yelled. Keep your voice down, Maria whispered, trying not to alert the secretary outside. She then brought out her iPhone, which had the voice memo app on, recording the entire conversation. I now got proof of your shit, Dan. If this goes out to the web, your entire tenure will be revoked at this school, Maria said, withholding the fact that her glasses were installed with a small 1080p camera that she got online. You bitch. What do you want? Dr. Taylor's voice softened. I, Maria smiled, want to be your assistant. Present day. Jack, Carlos, and Sal stood in amazement at her story. They couldn't quite believe that an unassuming young woman could be able to uncover a mystery of such a grand scale and even risk her own well-being to outwit a top archaeology professor. Yet somehow she was here. Jack's allure to Maria grew stronger, albeit with slight intimidation. She continued to explain that she had spent the night drinking with the grandfather who tipped Dr. Taylor off to this place. Through their conversations, Maria was able to have the old man lay a finger on where he saw concrete in the mountain many years ago. "So, I need one of you numbnuts to accompany me for my security," Maria asked with a somewhat princess-like charm. "Where to?" Jack asked, confused. "Off the beaten path," Maria responded with a wink. That night, Maria persuaded Dr. Taylor to take Jack Carter with her to provide personal security for her geological reconnaissance of the area. With what Maria had on him, Dr. Taylor approved the request.